So I just recorded this entire video only to realize that I didn't plug my microphone in, so I'm gonna do it all again. I am beyond exhausted. We'll see how we go. Hello friends, family, unfortunate souls who stumbled upon this video by accident. Hope you're having a good time, hope you're having a good Christmas, New Year, holiday period, whatever you're up to. I'm having a pretty good time, I'm chilling, just saw 4 movies today and I'm pretty tired, but one of those movies was the last thing I needed to see before I was able to make this list. So just a couple things. Sorry if there's some whirring noise in the background of this video. I've got a fan on, it's hot in here, and you good folks do not want to see me sweating. That's not what we're about here. Anyway, it's been a pretty good year for film. I haven't seen as many as I have in previous years, but there's been enough to round out this list. And there hasn't been a ton of terrible movies, but you know, we'll be right, we'll get there. But no honorable mentions, we're gonna get straight into it. I don't love being negative. I know how goddamn hard it is to make movies. It's what I want to do. It's what I've been trying to do. So I don't want to sit here and shit on other people's art. But I'm going to. I'm desperate for content, and you know, it's what I had to do and have done for many years. But at the same time, I know how hard it is to make movies, and I'm not saying I could do this any better. So in an effort to bring a bit of positivity to this, I'm going to try and say one thing I liked about each movie at the end of me talking about it. So here goes. I hope you enjoy this list. Highlife is a sci-fi movie directed by Claire Denis, one that I was really excited for early in the year because it got some crazy reactions out of Cannes Film Festival. It was just this sex-crazed maniac of a film when I was reading all kinds of crazy shit, and it ended up just being a real big letdown. It stars Robert Pattinson and Juliette Binoche, and they're on this sort of expedition out to deep space, and they're... I don't really know how to describe it. They're like trying to sort of inseminate people, and there's this weird sex box thing that they all have to go in, and there's a lot of cum in this movie if you're into that. It just didn't do it for me. I have no problem with films being weird for the sake of weird, but when you get to a point where the characters find another spaceship and this spaceship is just full of dead or dying dogs for no apparent reason, and then it's just never really referenced or explained again, that's where I start to take issue. And it just, I don't know, it didn't quite feel like it justified its weirdness, and I wasn't on board for the ride. Positive, it's very good looking, and Robert Pattinson is great, but it didn't really do it for me, Highlife. Creatively titled, Murder Mystery is a murder mystery film starring Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston as a couple who are on vacation and they find themselves at this yacht party. Someone ends up dead and they become the suspects. Now, I love Adam Sandler. I'm not saying I love all the, you know, terrible movies that he's been making, but I'm a fan of the guy. I think he's genuinely one of the nicest people in Hollywood, and he can be really funny and a really great actor when he wants to be and when he actually puts the effort in. Sadly, this movie isn't one of those times. This is one of his paid vacations where it's just him hanging out in an exotic country with his friends, putting minimal effort into a movie. And that's the problem with Murder Mystery. It's just happy with being bland and lazy. It goes for all the easiest jokes, and yeah, it's just content with being a nothing movie. It's not like awful, it's watchable. You can chuck it on Netflix in the background and vibe, but it's nothing that you're gonna remember half an hour after you watched it. If I have to pick a positive, Gemma Arterton and Luke Evans were quite fun to watch in the movie. That's about it. Now, this one broke my heart a little bit, Godzilla King of the Monsters. I'm a huge fan of the 2014 Godzilla film. I think it is a special effects extravaganza that shows brilliant scale and does a great job slowly giving you morsels of Godzilla until he just goes nuts in the climax. And this one just didn't give me anything that I was hoping for. It was shaping up to look pretty good. Obviously the effects are great, has a lot of money behind it, but on a story level it just fell completely flat. It introduces a bunch of new characters that you don't really care about, and the characters that you do know and love are pretty much shafted or thrown to the sidelines. My hero Sally Hawkins is given absolutely nothing to do in this movie, which alone is enough to put it on this list, but on top of that, the monster fights are constantly broken up by this meaningless exposition. Every time there's a fight happening, every 10 seconds they cut back to the humans in their ship explaining what's happening. They're like, oh, Mothra's going this way to go do this thing because this is his relation to Godzilla, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't care. I'm in the theater to see monsters fighting monsters. You don't have to tell me what's going on. I can see what's going on. Give me a basic plot and I am good. It's freaking Godzilla. The action scenes could not build up any steam because of this relentless exposition. And I just ended up leaving the theater having a really, really bad time, and I was very, very upset by this one. In terms of positives, Ken Watanabe. One of the best parts of the first movie, and is one of the few things in this that feels at home. And I love him and his relationship and his passion for Godzilla, and he was great. Scary stories to tell in the dark. This just goes to show that if a great director like Guillermo del Toro puts his stamp of approval on something, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good. I love that he's shepherding and mentoring these young filmmakers into making their own horror films, but this one was just very, very bland. It could have been great. Like the original series, it's just a bunch of creepy anthologies, like stories with a bunch of monsters and stuff, and it could have been a really cool anthology film, but instead of doing it as a bunch of shorts, they've combined all the different stories into one narrative, and the narrative just wasn't enough to sustain a feature, and it wasn't scary, it was aggressively boring, and the dialogue was bad, the actors didn't really have much chemistry with each other. I saw it with some friends, and you know, I was just hoping for a good time, and I didn't even get that. There's not really much to say about this one. Positive, it's pretty well made on a technical level. Like, cinematography's pretty good, the effects are alright, like, there's no complaints there. It's just, there's no meat behind it. It could have been a really creepy anthology, but instead it's just kinda like Final Destination without the fun factor. Number 6 is The Lion King. Now, make no mistake, this movie was a cash grab, and you know, Disney gotta make money. They don't gotta make money, they want to make money, and they're gonna keep on remaking their back catalogue until people get sick of it, which, you know, fair enough, but do something different, man. Or if you're gonna do something different, don't take away the things people love. I have a lot to say about this movie, so I'll try not to ramble, but the gorgeous effects are a double-edged sword that result in the hyper-realistic animals not emoting at all. So in scenes where I should be laughing or crying, I just felt nothing. There were some dramatic moments that were almost funny because of the lack of the emotion in animals' faces. The Jungle Book made the right call in not being a musical, but because seeing these hyper-realistic animals singing in this one was a little bit creepy. And they just made a bunch of weird choices, like they got rid of the Be Prepared musical number, which is one of the most iconic moments of the original. They set Can You Feel the Love Tonight during the day. It's kind of poorly lit. The final fight scene where Simba's fighting Scar, it's so dimly lit that you can't even see who's who, and it's basically an animated movie, so I don't know why they did that. It's a rare misstep from Jon Favreau, who's one of my favorite people working in the industry. And it's just a bland, lifeless product. And if you're gonna keep remaking your originals, then just put more effort into them than this, Disney, because this was really, really disappointing. Positive? Billy motherfucking Eichner. That dude is a legend, and he brought so much life to every scene he was in. Whenever him and Seth Rogen were on screen as Timon and Pumbaa, I was actually enjoying myself in this film. He was really, really great, and I would love to see him pop up in more big movies like this. X-Men Dark Phoenix. I'm gonna keep this one pretty short because, let's face it, no one saw this, and it's really a nothing movie. There's not much to say about it. It was this franchise limping home to its final end. We'll probably see these characters rebooted at some point, but it was a real disappointing end. The plot was just kind of a rehash of X-Men 3. They reused all the same character arcs and dynamics that they've been doing for like the last 6 movies, like Charles and Magneto, like, oh, we were friends, but now we're enemies, but now we have to work together again, old friend. It literally ends with them playing chess. Sorry, spoilers. The script is bad, the performances aren't great, even from people I love, like James McAvoy and Jessica Chastain. The one positive takeaway from this is Michael Fassbender. The dude is consistently the best part of these movies, and he needs to fire his agent because he's been in some stinkers lately, despite being one of the best actors working today. So he carried this movie on his broad shoulders. Number 4 is probably my favorite movie on this list, Serenity. So Serenity stars Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway, and Matthew McConaughey is a fisherman named Baker Dill, who works on this island, just, you know, taking people on fishing tours and stuff. when Anne Hathaway's ex-lover rocks up and says, "Hey, I want you to kill my husband because he's a bad man." And he's like, "Oh, I don't know, do I want to do it?" And it's got everything a great thriller needs. Fishing, Matthew McConaughey's bare ass, Anne Hathaway says daddy a whole bunch of times, which was just really, really unnerving. I did not need that. But the real reason I love this movie is that there's a twist around the halfway point that I'm not going to spoil, but it's a twist that makes everything that came before all the more funny and ridiculous and gross and weird and hilarious. This is 2019's perfect so bad it's good movie. There are a lot of others that I was hoping would fill that position, but Serenity is the one that did it for me. I was laughing the entire way through, and I recommend watching it, or if you don't want to watch it, Google what the twist is if you don't care, because it is absolutely ridiculous. It is the most cheeseball early 2000s boomer crap you could think of, and I loved it. Jeremy Strong was hilarious. He plays a character named The Rules. There's a fish named Justice. I'm not going to go into any more detail on that. But yeah, Serenity is a film that has to be seen to be believed, and I highly recommend it. It's atrocious, but I loved it. So I guess the negatives are positive in and of themselves. Enter a movie I was hoping would be a so bad it's good masterpiece, but ended up just being so bad it's bad. The Fanatic was really, really funny for maybe 20 minutes, and then it just ran out of steam and ended up just being another bad movie. But it stars John Travolta and is directed by Fred Durst. Yes, Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit. That is the level of artistic pedigree we are working with here. John Travolta, sporting an epic bowl cut and Hawaiian shirt, plays Moose, a heavily autistic man who, might I say, is an incredibly insensitive portrayal of autism, is all I'm gonna say. And that's not me, like, inferring it. I remember one of the plot descriptions referred to him as having weaponized autism, whatever the fuck that means. But, yeah, Moose is this sort of obsessive fan and celebrity autograph chaser, and he's obsessed with this B-movie horror star called Hunter Dunbar, funnily enough played by Devon Sawa, who played Stan in the music video for Stan, a song about an obsessive fan. Full circle, yeah. But anyway, it's just dreadful. It's trying to be like some serious thriller in this commentary on society, and it's meant to show Moose as like a good guy gone bad. Well, I guess kind of like Joker, a guy who's been let down by society and we're supposed to feel bad for him. But the guy, like, he literally, like, kills a person and is just a psychotic stalker, and we're supposed to feel like he's the good guy. And just treasured lines of dialogue. Like, Moose didn't cross the line, he fucking nuked it. And if I have to think of a positive for this one, John Travolta's first line of dialogue in this movie is, "I can't talk long, I gotta poo." And now, if that's not great screenwriting, I don't know what is. That gives me hope that I can one day be a screenwriter. Hellboy! This is a movie that shouldn't exist, but that's not the only reason it's here. It is genuinely terrible in its own right, but this is a movie that means we're never going to see any real meaningful continuation of Guillermo del Toro's Hellboy series. A series that is beloved by everyone I know and would have made bank if they had let him continue it, but instead they opted to go for this lame reboot that ended up flopping hard and pretty much killed any chance of continuing the franchise. This is a really, really ugly film to its core, like, morally ugly, but also just aesthetically ugly. I get that Hellboy needs to have a lot of disgusting and creepy creatures, but this one is just, the effects are no good. It feels like it was written and directed by a 12-year-old boy. The lamest jokes, just like swearing every 10 seconds to try and seem cool. Not that I've ever been guilty of that back in the day. Yeah, David Harbour was okay. He's not to blame here. Sacha Lane, I'm a big fan of. Mila Jovovich is the villain, so again, that's the level of artistic talent we're working with here. It goes for all the cheapest lines. Like, at one point, someone gets their head cut off and he's like, "Hey, quit while you're ahead." I'm surprised there wasn't a guy, like, banging a drum set in the background, but It's just no good, and I'm very, very disappointed that it exists. If I have to name a positive about Hellboy, it is a character called Lobster Johnson, played by Thomas Hayden Church, who was in 2 scenes, but he was a riot, and I would watch an entire movie just about him. Is this really a surprise? When the first trailer came out for Cats, the speculation was rampant about what a disaster it was going to be. There's a part of me deep down that thought it was going to do well, because the director Tom Hooper makes sort of average movies that always seem to do well. Like The King's Speech is one of the most boring Best Picture winners ever. The Danish Girls are really sanitized and I think insensitive portrayal of transgender people. And Les Mis is great, I'll give him Les Mis. But the reception for this has been worse than I could have possibly imagined, and I thought everyone was exaggerating. I thought everyone was like, I saw, you know, all the stories and all the takes, and I was like, oh, it can't be that bad, they're all exaggerating. But I watched it tonight, and it's not just that bad, it's worse. Cats is a genuine monstrosity. It's the ugliest film of the year. The effects are unfinished. You've heard all the stories, I don't want to go on about this all day, but they released it unfinished and then patched it with another updated version with better effects. But thankfully, I'm pretty sure they screened the original version in my theater because I saw it all. The cat's feet are like floating off the ground half the time. They didn't even sit them on the ground properly. Their faces and collars and stuff are always moving like they're not animated properly. You can see Judi Dench's human hand with her wedding ring on it. There are these terrifying humanoid face cockroach and mouse things. You know what the effects in this movie look like? They look like in What We Do in the Shadows when Jermaine Clement tries to turn himself into a cat but he can't get the face right. They look like that, but in that it was meant to be a joke. Cats is not a motherfucking joke. It is a real movie that exists and was put into theaters and was greenlit through every step of the production process somehow. It just feels like a waste of money. Like, all the money they spent on making this, they could have given it to the environment or something. You could have made 10 indie films with that money that would have actually been good. I don't know, but Cats just drags everyone down to this dark depth. Actors I love are reduced to rubble. Idris Elba, Ian McKellen, Judi Dench were all just awful, and I don't know if you can blame them for what they were a part of because it's just a mess from top to bottom. But James Corden and Rebel Wilson, who honestly I like at the best of times, were horrific in this, like true nightmare fuel in some scenes. The plot is absolute nonsense. It's about these cats called Jellicles who, like, they want to die or something. They're all like fighting to be chosen to go to this afterlife place called the Heaviside Labs, but like, so they want to die. These cats want to die. I mean, I can't blame them, to be honest, but they don't explain anything. I haven't seen the musical, but my friend I saw it with has, and he said, you know, the musical doesn't make much sense either, so I don't know who's to blame here. Is it Tom Hooper? Is it Andrew Lloyd Webber? Is it me for paying money to see this in theaters? I'll be able to tell my grandkids one day that I saw Cats in a movie theater. I paid money to see Cats, and that is something that I'm going to have to live with for the rest of my life. And if that doesn't put it at number 1 on this list, I don't know what does. Cats is one of the worst movies I have seen in years, and while it had some funny moments, not in the way the filmmakers intended funny, but you know, the last hour of this thing, I really, really wanted to leave the theater, but I've never walked out of a movie yet, and I don't think I ever will. If I can survive Cats, I can survive anything. So yeah, don't watch this movie unless you're heavily intoxicated. And I guess, I've got to say a positive about it, don't I? Thank you for watching. Okay, as much as I wanted to make that joke, I will say Jennifer Hudson's singing was really, really great, even though her face was stapled onto some monstrosity of a cat. Also, Taylor Swift wasn't that bad either. Yeah, alright. So yeah, there you have it. That is my worst of the year list. I hope you enjoyed it. Sound off in the comments if you're around, if you agree with anything, if there's anything you reckon I missed. Thank you so much for watching. Bless your heart. I love you. I don't love being negative and trashing on movies, and I'm really, really excited to make my best of the year list because, as I said earlier, it's been a really good year. That's not going to be for another couple of months because film distribution in Australia is garbage, but I'm gonna hold strong and wait for stuff to come out in theaters, so I've seen everything. So the stuff like Uncut Gems and The Lighthouse and Little Women that I'm still really keen to see. But yeah, it's been a solid year, so look forward to that. Subscribe if you haven't. Check out all the stuff I've been uploading lately, a lot of my uni work. My short film, which we had a lot of fun making. Hopefully, I'll be making some more next year. So yeah, thanks for sticking with me. I love you. Hope you have a wonderful day, night, evening, whatever. My greetings and salutations are getting more long-winded as with each video, but I'm not making them often, so I want to say stuff to feed my own ego. I don't know. Goodbye. Off to the heaviside layer for me.